Greetings, everyone. Hola, mi gente. Welcome back to my channel, and thanks for spending a few minutes on this channel. And just want to say a huge happy Father's Day to all of those out there who are fathers, or who are father figures, or who are thinking about their fathers. Happy Father's Day. There's a friend of mine, Albert Nation Owino, and he runs an organization in Nairobi called SlumCode. And recently I saw a video that featured him, and it had testimony from some of the youth who have benefited from all that Albert has set up and is running through the organization SlumCode. And I was really touched by what one of the individuals said. And she said, "Albert is the father I never had." That was really, really moving. And so, on the occasion of Father's Day, once again, I want to say Happy Father's Day to all who are fathers, all who are father figures, and those could be mentors and, other very fatherly guides in our lives, and all those who are thinking about their fathers today. On the occasion of Father's Day, well, first of all, I am a father. And so on the occasion of Father's Day, I wanted to share about the person who makes me a father. I am a father because I have a son, Paul Michael Rambo Rayola Osanya. And because it's Father's Day and he makes me a father, I want to read for you just my own dedication to Paul, and read for you what I wrote about Paul in my book, Go in the Strength You Have. In the book, chapter 10 is called My African Dream. And in chapter 10, My African Dream, I talk about my African queen and my African teen. Paul was a teen at the time I wrote that. And this is what I've written. In fact, the copy of the book that I'm reading from right now is his copy. I sold out, all my copies sold out, and I was retaining a copy for myself. I ended up, initially I sold that, then I got another copy. And then at work, I was showing that to my new boss. I got a new boss. And I was just showing it to her just to let her know I'm an author and this is the book that I've written. And she kept the copy. So I have no copy of my own, so I'm actually reading Paul's copy of my book. And so this is what I have written about Paul here in chapter 10. Under the topic of my African dream, writing about my African teen. As for my African teen, he of course wasn't always a teen. He was once a toddler. He was once one day shy of his first birthday. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was Sunday afternoon, and I was at a party hosted by generous young women and men who had been part of the Campus Beacon ministry that Georgianne and I had led. My wife herself wasn't at the party because the women in the church full-time ministry were having a gathering at that hour. My merriment was interrupted by a phone call. It was my wife on the other end, and she wasn't alone. She was with Janet Florent, and she wanted us to accompany Janet and her husband Hervé the next day to a children's home in the Milimani section of Nairobi. I didn't want to go. I felt I was being set up. The topic of adoption had come up several times after our 2 pregnancies that ended early. Georgianne was open to it and pretty excited about it, I thought. But I didn't think it was for me. I felt that I was already not very good at loving, and there was therefore no way I would adequately love a child that didn't biologically derive from me. I also felt that with the idea of visiting the children's home, Hervé, Janet, and Georgianne were colluding to set me up and dupe unsuspecting me into the unescapable presence of irresistibly cuddly little cuties. If that's what they had up their sleeves, it worked. But maybe they weren't using trickery and were simply asking me to be godly enough to give some time to children who needed and appreciated every attention, every loving touch, every kindness that they could get from visitors who came through their home. Hervé and Janet were leading the Nairobi church at that point and had already had a great impact in our lives. Their leadership of the church in Nairobi was encouraging and energizing. Their love and support to Georgiana and me was immense. So, even though I was stubborn, I wasn't going to be so hard-headed as to insist on sitting solo in my apartment while they and Georgiana went to the children's home. How would I have explained doing that? So I consented to being part of the visit. I said yes, because it was easier than saying no. A day or two after the visit, Georgiana brought up the question that I knew would eventually arise. She wanted to know if there was any child that I had felt drawn to at the children's home. Indeed, there had been. And Georgiana had been drawn to a child too. It turned out that we had been drawn to the same little boy, a young man who had yanked at Georgiana's big earrings and had pulled my delicate glasses off my face while looking so innocently into my eyes. And the day of the visit had been a day before his first birthday. Once that conversation took place, Georgiana was back at home regularly. Georgiana was back at the home, the children's home, regularly. Despite its great distance from where we lived, and she would go there to see the little one and spend time with him. I didn't quite feel as compelled, and since I no longer had Hervé and Janet to contend with, I had fulfilled my agreement with them of visiting the children's home once. I didn't return to the home for a while. But once I did return to the home to see the little lad again, there was no turning back. Months later, with great support from our parents, siblings, and church family, we brought Paul home. We named him Michael, and also named him after my twin brother, who is called Rambo, which is the name of the Luo people of Kenya. My twin brother was my greatest hero growing up. Georgiana and I retained the name Paul in honor of his birth mother, who had named him so, and because the Apostle Paul is a pretty admirable guy. Hervé and Janet were a great inspiration along the process of adoption. Their biblical convictions about adoption and their personal example in this area made an immeasurable difference. No, they were not colluding or conniving, as I said earlier in jest. They were gentle, reassuring, and loving. Little Paul warmed our home and won our hearts. Soon, I couldn't imagine our lives without him and wouldn't want it any other way. Because adoption wasn't very common in Kenya, we had a bunch of explaining to do. I had to explain to people the difference between adoption and abduction. No, we hadn't grabbed him. He had snatched our hearts. Little did we realize that it would extend a sort of chain reaction. Hervé and Janet adopted a sweet little girl from the home that we had visited together. Then, with the help of their prayers and prompting, we did too. That was Paul. A relative to a member of the church staff heard about this, and she adopted 2 girls. A couple on the church staff then adopted as well. To God be the glory. And in the Bible, James 1:27 says, "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress." Georgiana, Paul, and I ended up being featured in a national newspaper and on TV, and I was interviewed on live morning radio. We were excited to shine light on the issue of adoption, which had generally been somewhat looked down upon in Kenya. And apart from Paul, Michael, Rambo lighting up our lives, 2 young ladies who came to live with us at separate times to help look after him studied the Bible and got baptized. We now live in New Jersey, USA, across the Hudson River from my birthplace of New York City. In 2018, we traveled back to Kenya and made an ultimately unsuccessful attempt to find and meet Paul's birth mother. We got pretty close, but did not get all the cooperation we needed from those who could make the final leg of the search happen. I felt for Paul because this was something that had been on his heart for many years. He had even written his birth mother a poem that he had longed to read to her. While he may not have met his birth mother, the next year he experienced rebirth from his heavenly Father. He made Jesus Lord and got baptized. Two amazing young men in the church had helped him along this journey. My hope and dream are for Paul Michael Rambo to remain faithful to God, to keep going in the strength that he has, and to help others along the way. I just want to say a big thank you to Paul for being Paul, for allowing me to be his dad, and for being my son. And so Paul, if you watch this, see, I don't know. I'm not quite sure that Paul watches my channel. Still, I can just put this on and show it to him at least. So Paul, if or when you watch this, I just want to say, I love you. Thank you for being my son. Also, Paul has a YouTube channel. It is Pablo TV Vlogs. So check out his channel, like his videos, subscribe to the channel. Give his channel your support, please. Pablo TV Vlogs. Also, a special Father's Day shout out to my younger brother, Emmanuel Mandela, because this is his first Father's Day as a dad. He's dad to wonderful Rhysce, I hope I pronounced that right, Rhysce Lema Nyinek. So, Emmanuel, special salutations and congratulations on this Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Salutations, congratulations, and celebrations to all the fathers out there, all the father figures, mentors, positive male role models. All of you, you count. And also a word of Father's Day to those of our fathers who have gone before us. For me, my father, he departed, he left us a few years ago. And this top actually is not by coincidence. This is a tracksuit top from Indiana University, because that's where my father went to school at some point in his life. And so I think maybe you can see the IU, the logo there. Not sure how clear that is. So that's in honor of my dad. So for all of you who are fathers, all of you who are thinking of your fathers, all of you who are playing incredible, amazing roles as mentors and other really important figures in people's lives, happy Father's Day. Everyone, stay well and stay blessed.